My name is Emily Carter, and if you'd met me 10 years ago, you would have thought I had the perfect life. Minja. I was the girl from a quiet town in Ohio who did everything right. Yeah. I got good grades, went to a decent college on a scholarship, married the guy who held my hair back when I got sick at a frat party, and landed a stable job in a mid sized marketing firm. We bought a house with beige carpeting and a two-car garage. We had a golden retriever named Daisy. We had a son, Noah, who arrived on a cold January morning when everything in the world still felt like it was just beginning. Bland on paper, we were what people posted about on Facebook with heart emojis and couple goals comments. Bandia. But real life doesn't live on paper. Blindy. I grew up the daughter of a single mom who worked double shifts at a diner. She used to hand me a dollar bill and say, "This is for the vending machine if you get hungry. But if you can wait until I get a break, we'll share a slice of pie instead." I watched her choose pie and conversation over convenience so many times that without even realizing it, I started to believe that love was mostly about small, tired choices that nobody else saw. Blindier. When I met Ryan my freshman year, he felt like the opposite of tired. He was loud and funny and confident in a way I had only ever seen in movies. He said things like, "We're not going to be boring, Em. We're going to have a big life." I believed him because I wanted to. Lynn, we got married right after graduation, before we had any real money and before either of us knew what for worse could really mean. When Noah was born 3 years later, Ryan cried harder than I did. I still remember the way his hands trembled as he held our son, whispering, "I'm going to do this right. I'm not going to be my dad." Lan, the thing about promises is they're usually made by people who haven't yet been tested. Ban My 20s disappeared in a blur of diapers and deadlines. I'd wake up at 5, feed Noah, answer emails with one hand while rocking him with the other, drop him off at daycare, then drive to the office rehearsing presentations in my head. I thought if I worked hard enough, I could build the kind of life where my son would never have to choose between a vending machine snack and sharing pie with his mom. Bammed Ryan, meanwhile, bounced between jobs, real estate, then car sales, then something with medical supplies that I never fully understood. He was always chasing the next big thing, the one that was finally going to set us up for life. Sometimes the deals did come through, and we'd celebrate with dinners out and little gifts we couldn't really afford. Other times they didn't, and he'd come home tight-jawed and distant, scrolling through his phone late into the night looking for the next opportunity. The lens. The first time I realized our marriage was in trouble, it wasn't during a fight. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I got an email from Noah's elementary school. He'd gotten into a fight with another boy that wasn't like him at all. My sweet, cautious Noah, who apologized when he bumped into furniture, Pelangis. When I asked him about it that night, he said dad never comes to games because he doesn't care about me. Lemda, I waited for the anger to come, but what I felt instead was a deep, tired sadness because I knew our son had a point. Ryan always had a meeting, a call, something too important to miss. He loved Noah, I didn't doubt that, but he loved his own idea of the future even more. Planned over the years, cracks deepened quietly, missed anniversaries, conversations that turned into arguments before we knew what we were really fighting about. Ryan said I cared more about my job than my marriage. I said I was just trying to be the stable one. We were both a little right and a lot wrong. By the time Noah was 15, the house that once felt full of beginnings now felt like a dot waiting room where nobody was sure what they were waiting for. Meaned I was promoted to creative director at the firm. My office on the 12th floor became both my refuge and my excuse. It was easier to stay late than to go home to the brittle silence of our living room. From that 12th floor window, the city looked neat and manageable, all lines and light and distance. I could pretend that if I just organized my calendar and hit every line, the rest of my life would somehow fall into place. Noah, meanwhile, was growing into this complicated, thoughtful person I sometimes barely recognized. He'd sit at the kitchen table, sketchbook open, headphones in, drawing for hours. The kid who once clung to my leg at preschool drop-off now stayed out late at Jackson's house, his messages turning more vague, his eyes a little more guarded. One evening, as I was finishing up a report in my office, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Noah. Mom, can I come to your office? Need to talk. Just you, not Dad. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Those last two words, not Dad, sat heavy in my chest. I texted back, of course. I'll send you the address and get you a visitor pass. Billions. By the time Noah arrived, the office was mostly empty. It was that strange in-between hour when the sun has set, but the building lights haven't all gone off yet. He walked in wearing his black hoodie, hands shoved in his pockets, shoulders tense. His hair had gotten longer. I'd been meaning to say something about a haircut, but now I was grateful I hadn't. He looked so fragile and fierce at the same time. Hey, I said, standing up. Hey, he mumbled, hovering by the door like he wasn't sure he was allowed to come any closer. Come in, sit. I gestured to the small couch by the window. Want something to drink? There's a machine down the hall. I'm good. Meaned. I sat beside him, leaving a little space between us, like I was approaching a skittish animal. What's going on? He took a deep breath. His eyes moved from my face to the window and back again. You're not gonna freak out, right? Can't promise anything, I said gently, but I can promise I'll listen. He laughed once without humor. Yeah, okay, there was a long silence. I let it sit. My mom had taught me that how sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is not to rush their words. Dad's gonna be mad if he knows I'm here, Noah finally said. Why? Because he says you always turn things against him, that you make him the bad guy. The words stung, not because I never thought them, but because I'd never wanted Noah to hear them. Noah, I said carefully, this isn't about making anyone the bad guy. This is about you. Whatever's going on, I want to help. That's it. That's all. He nodded, biting his lip. Okay. So, there's a couple things. He looked so nervous. My heart squeezed. First thing, he said, I don't want to live with Dad if you guys split up. It was like the floor dropped out from under me. Who said we're splitting up? My voice came out too. He looked at me with that almost adult honesty that teenagers have when they're tired of being lied to. You think I don't hear you, the fights, the maybe we should take a break and this isn't working stuff? I'm not a kid, Mom, I swallowed. We'd been trying so hard to argue behind closed doors, but houses have thin walls and kids have sharp hearing. Okay, I said slowly, you're right, you're not a kid, and your dad and I have been having a hard time. We haven't made any decisions yet. but your feelings matter. Why didn't you want to live with him if it came to that? You know, he stared at his hands. Because I don't trust him. The words sat between us like a dropped glass. In what way? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Noah's eyes filled with tears. He was trying very hard to blink away. He lies a lot. To you, to me, to everyone, I felt a cold, familiar anger stir. About what? You know? He hesitated, then said, about Claire, for one. Bling the name hit me like a slap. Lendian Claire was the project manager he'd mentioned offhand a few months back, the one he suddenly had to travel with for conferences, the one whose name popped up on his phone late at night when he said it was just work stuff. I'd asked, he'd laughed it off. I'd told myself I was imagining things, that I was tired, stressed, paranoid. And how do you know about Claire? I asked. Because, he said, and now his voice was shaking. I saw them at the mall last weekend. We were supposed to be at Jackson's, but his mom had to work late, so we went to get food. They were holding hands, kissing, like teenagers. He sounded disgusted, betrayed. Menda. I closed my eyes for a moment, the image burning behind my eyelids, even though I hadn't seen it myself. So this was it. The thing I'd been tiptoeing around for months was no longer fog and suspicion. My son had seen it, named it Bomdian. When I asked Dad about it, Noah went on. He said I was imagining things, that I must have seen someone who looked like him. He laughed like I was stupid. His voice cracked on that last word. I'm not stupid, Mom. Blend, I know you're not. I said, the anger now sharpened into something cleaner. You're not? Mon. He scrubbed at his eyes with the sleeve of his hoodie. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I'm gay. For a second, my brain couldn't hold both pieces of information at once. My husband's affair, my son's confession. They tangled together in my chest, fighting for space. I reached for Noah's hand. He let me take it. Okay, I said, because that was the first word that came. Okay. Thank you for telling me. You're not surprised? He asked, watching my face like it was a weather report. I'm a little surprised you told me now, I said, honestly. But no, I guess I'm not that surprised. I've had guesses. His eyebrows shot up. You have? Noah, I've known you your whole life. I notice things. But it wasn't my secret to name. It was yours. I was waiting for you to feel safe enough to tell me. Lundy. He stared at me for a second, then looked away quickly like he didn't want me to see the relief in his eyes. I was going to tell you sooner, but I didn't want you to have one more thing to deal with. With Dad and work and everything, one more thing. I squeezed his hand. You are not one more thing. You are. You're my son. This is part of who you are. I'm glad you told me. I want to know you. All of you. I want to know you, all of you. His shoulders loosened just a little. Blend, is this why you don't want to live with Dad? I asked gently. He let out a shake of breath. Partly. He says stuff about gay people. Jokes. I know he doesn't think I notice, but I do. And if he finds out about me and he's like that, I don't think I could live with him. Amend. I won't let anyone make you feel unsafe, I said. The words came out with a calm certainty that surprised me. Not even your dad, especially not your dad. Ew. He nodded, and for the first time in months, he leaned into me. His head rested briefly on the way he used to when he was small and the world was still simple. We sat like that for a few seconds in this tiny island of quiet before the door to my office swung open. Ryan's voice sliced through the air too loud in the small space. I jerked upright. Noah's head snapped up. Ryan stood in the doorway, wearing his navy blazer, phone in his hand, eyes scanning the room with the quick, assessing look of someone used to walking into meetings he was late for. What's going on? He asked, his gaze landing on Noah. Why are you here? I thought you were at Jackson's. Noah went rigid beside me. I stood up slowly. Ryan, how did you PND? You left your email open on the laptop. I saw the visitor pass notification. Thought I'd surprise you, take you both to dinner. He took a step inside, the artificial smile on his face flickering as he took in our expressions. Didn't know there was some kind of secret meeting happening. Blam, it's not a secret meeting, I said, keeping my voice steady. Noah wanted to talk privately. Planned privately, Ryan repeated, his jaw tightening. About what? About how terrible I am? About how I ruin everything? Is that it? Yo, no, Noah said quickly. It was the first time he'd spoken since his father walked in. His voice sounded small in a way I hated. I just wanted to talk to Mom alone. Ryan's eyes flashed. Because I'm not allowed to be part of my own son's life now? That it? Slyn, this isn't about you, I said, and the irony of those words, after all these years, wasn't lost on me. This is about Noah. He needed me. You always say that, Ryan shot back. But what you mean is you needed to feel important. You needed to be the hero. I know how this goes, Emily. You talk to him about what a screw up I am, how unstable, how... Yo, Dad, Noah interrupted, his voice suddenly sharp. Stop, Ryan turned to him, clearly startled. Excuse me? No, stop making this about you, Noah said. He stood up too now, squaring his shoulders, though he was still a few inches shorter than his father. I didn't come here to talk about you. I came here to tell Mom that I saw you with Claire at the mall. Last weekend, the color drained from Ryan's face. Plan D. You were imagining things, he said automatically, like the lie was muscle memory now. No, Noah said, and for the first time I heard steel in his voice. I wasn't. I'm not stupid. Band silence rolled over the room, thick and suffocating. The hum of the building's air conditioning suddenly sounded very loud. I watched Ryan's face shift shock, anger, calculation. I'd seen those expressions before, just never this nakedly. Oh, fine, he said at last, dropping into the visitor chair as if his legs had given out. Fine. You saw something. You both want me to say it? Yes. I've been seeing someone. There, happy now? Happy? My voice cracked on the word. You think anyone is happy about this? Yeah. He rubbed his forehead. You haven't exactly been a ray of sunshine, Em. You live at this office. You're always tired, always stressed, always. Somewhere else. And you decided the answer was to find someone new rather than talk to me. I shot back. Rather than fix what's broken. I tried. He exploded so many times. But every time I brought up how I felt, you had a conference call or a deadline or some crisis at work. Do not blame your cheating on my job, I said quietly. That quiet scared even me. We stared at each other. Two people who had once promised each other forever and now couldn't even share. the same room without hurting the person we loved most in the process. Between us, Noah stood, breathing hard. A 15-year-old boy in an office, far too adult for him, watching his parents' marriage unravel under fluorescent lights. Me, I'm also gay, he blurted suddenly, as if ripping off a bandage. So, there. Land. If the room had been tense before, it was now electric. Ryan blinked. What? Blend, I'm gay, Noah repeated, his chin lifting. Lind, for a second, all the anger drained from Ryan's face, replaced by raw surprise. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. I held my breath. Okay, Ryan said finally. Ban. It was not the reaction I'd braced for, but his okay was not like mine had been soft and open. His was careful, measured, like someone choosing a word off a menu, okay? Noah echoed, skeptical. Yeah, Ryan said. I mean, I wasn't expecting that today, but okay. You're my son. I still love you. He glanced at me quickly, then added, we'll talk about it at home. No, Noah said, stepping closer to me. I told Mom because I feel safe with her. I don't feel safe with you. The honesty of it was a hammer blow. Ryan recoiled. Because of what? Some dumb jokes I made years ago? Because you lie, Noah said simply. About everything. How am I supposed to believe you're okay with me being me when you can't even be honest about where you are on a Saturday? Bond Ryan stared at him like he'd never seen him before. Belindia, I watched my son, this boy we'd made together, this human who carried both our faces and none of our illusions, and something inside me finally fully broke. Band Ryan, I said, my voice suddenly very calm. You need to go. He turned to me, incredulous. What? You need to leave, I repeated. Noah came here to talk to me, to feel safe. Right now, you're not helping with that. You're hurting it. This is my family, too, he snapped. You don't get to just, I'm not saying you're out of his life, I said. I'm saying you're out of this room for now, for tonight. We will figure the rest out, probably with lawyers and therapists and more conversations than any of us want to have. But right now, my son asked for privacy. He asked for me. So I'm choosing him. Blum, the fight seemed to drain out of him all at once. He stood up slowly, looking suddenly older than I'd ever seen him. You're really done, aren't you? He asked. I thought about all the times I'd stayed, all the times I'd bent myself around his moods, his dreams, his disappointments, all the second chances I'd given him in my head without ever saying the words out loud. Bully end. I'm not done being your company parent, I said. I'm not done caring whether you get your life together. But as your wife, I swallowed. Yeah, I think I'm done. For a moment, he just stood there. Then he nodded once, like a man accepting a verdict. He looked at Noah. I do love you, he said quietly. I know, Noah said, and the sadness in his voice was deeper than any anger. But that's not the same thing as being someone I can trust. Ryan flinched, then turned and walked out. The door clicked shut behind him with a soft sound that felt somehow louder than all the shouting had. Bomlians, for a long moment, Noah and I just stood there, listening to the muffled sounds of the nearly empty building, distant phones ringing, the faint ding of an elevator somewhere. Finally, Noah sank back onto the couch. I didn't mean to blow everything up, he said. Bland. You didn't blow anything up, I said, sitting beside him. You just turned on the lights. Bet he gave a humorless little huff. Feels pretty blown up from here. Yeah, I admitted. It does. Lemmian. We sat together in the quiet, the city lights flickering beyond the glass. So he said after a while, you're really okay with me like this? Mendiad I looked at him, my son, taller than the boy I still saw in my memories, braver than I had ever been at his age. Band, I'm more than okay, I said. I'm proud, not because you're gay or despite it, but because you told me, because you chose to be honest even when the adults around you weren't. That's real courage, Noah. Mend. He swallowed hard, his eyes shining. I was so scared, Mom. I know. I pulled him into a hug. This time, he didn't resist. He let himself lean into me fully, his face buried in my shoulder like he used to when storms, rolled over our old house and the thunder got too loud. Blendio. We stayed like that for a long time. When he finally pulled away, the world outside was darker, but inside that office, something felt clearer. Blend. That night, as I drove us home, I realized that the story of my life, the one I'd been telling myself for years, had just changed chapters. Pomedia. I wasn't just the girl who married her college boyfriend or the woman who kept everything afloat by working late and saying it's fine when it wasn't. I was the mother who chose her son's trust over her husband's comfort. The woman who finally stopped mistaking, holding it together for being okay. People talk about big turning points like they're dramatic scenes in a movie, car chases, accidents, screaming matches in the rain. But sometimes they happen in quiet offices under fluorescent lights. When your son looks you in the eye and tells you who he really is, and your husband walks in at the worst possible moment, and you finally decide who you're going to be, too. Gleaned that day in my office when my son and I were talking privately and my husband walked in, didn't end my life. Blamed it started a truer one.